Hi, I'm Brian Contos, Chief Security Strategist with Imperva. Today's educational video demonstration is on script injection. This is a shorter demonstration than most, and is actually a prelim to cross-site scripting. So the first thing you'll want to notice here is I am logged in as Bugsby, or Bugs Bunny, and we're still using the Super Beta online shopping application. And like we've done previously with SQL injection attacks, we're actually going to use the search capability. And again, using search can be just as, if not more, powerful than using the URL string or simply logging in. In fact, it's accessing the same tables on the back end. So we're going to do a very simple script injection here. I'm simply going to say script. Then I'm going to say alert. Documents. .cookie. And then I'm going to close out the script. Now if I'd spelled everything right here, and everything's correct, it's simply saying, instead of running a search on what I've typed in here, which is exactly what it should be doing, I'm going to run this script, and the script is going to prompt a little alert box to come up, and within that alert box, it's actually going to give me my cookie information, and I've just closed out the script. So when I execute this, simply by clicking on Find, sure enough, we get our little Microsoft Internet Explorer alert box, and it gives me my session ID information, it gives me my cookie data, and it also tells me my privileges. So again, it shouldn't have done that. What it should have done is tried to execute a search on what I input, but instead it actually ran my script. Now this just shows me my cookie. It's not really telling me anything that critical, but what it is telling me is that this portion of the page is subject to script injection. Thus, other pages on the site are likely to be vulnerable as well. We can also use this information in terms of looking at the session ID, and if you want to get session ID information, you can do things such as have the script run, but instead of popping up a little alert box here and showing it to me, maybe redirect that information to my website, the attacker's website. Now they're going to get this data. Now a malicious user might be able to take that information, that redirected data, look at that session ID, and then they could connect it back to Super Beta with that session ID. Now, unless the application, unless Super Beta in this case, is actually checking that each IP has a unique session identifier, I'll be able to hijack that session. And I'll log in, or I'll connect, I should say, as Bugsby. Once I've connected as Bugsby, I can change Bugsby's password, so the real Bugsby no longer has any control of the account, and do whatever I wanted to do that Bugsby could have done. Purchase items, what have you. Very simple, very easy attack. Again, this is something that most vulnerability scanners will be able to detect, and most web application firewalls worth their weight are actually able to prevent this type of script injection attack. For more information on Imperva and to learn how to mitigate these types of attacks, please visit imperva.com. Be sure to check out our blog, follow us on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and check out our Facebook page.
Another example. Here is an SQL script
Hi, I'm
injection.
Brian Contos, Chief Security Strategist with Imperva. Today's educational demonstration is on SQL injection. So the website I'm using today is called Super Beta. This is a laboratory test system that we use for analyzing various types of attacks and mitigation steps. Now, like any e-commerce site, you have the ability to log in and authenticate. You can look at various products. You can drill down into the details and essentially interact like you would on any other site where you were potentially going to purchase an item. Okay, so now you know what Super Beta is. Let's go ahead and play around with the login capabilities. So I'm going to log in with a user account that I'm pretty sure doesn't exist. Username Brian, password Brian. sure enough, it says invalid username or password. Doesn't really give me a whole lot of useful information though, beyond knowing that that account doesn't work. Now let's try an account that I do know exists, which is Bugs Bunny, or Bugs B. And Bugs Bunny, I happen to know, has the password carrots. I'm just going to simply cut that and paste it in. And we've logged in, and it says, hello bugs. So now we know what things are supposed to look like when they go right. So let's go ahead and try to do a little bit of basic SQL injection now. Let's go ahead and just log in again. And this time, I'm going to use a username that won't really look like a username at all. I'm going to use apostrophe, space, or space 1, apostrophe, space equals, apostrophe 1. Basically, I'm saying 1 equals 1 in this statement. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it, and see what happens. Wow, look at that, we're actually able to log in. And it says, hello Mickey. Well, I didn't use the username Mickey, so why is it telling me I'm Mickey? Well, essentially this is probably the most basic of all SQL injection attacks. I'm injecting the SQL statement into the page's code, and this is creating a true statement. Again, 1 equals 1. And it just happens to be that Mickey is the first user within the database. So the system says, well, I really just don't know who to pick, so I'm simply going to grab the first user who just happened to be Mickey. Now, when people first see this, they say, wow, this is a pretty standard signature. Why don't I just use an IDS or an IPS with that signature to look for that statement and detect or block the attack? Well, you could do that, but you'd be building a lot of signatures without even getting into, talks about encoding and some more advanced characteristics of SQL injection. Let's just say that there's a lot of ways to make a true statement, and I'll just share a couple of those just so you can see that it's not as basic as you might think in terms of signature matching. So we did 1 equals 1, but another thing that we can simply say is, so very similar so far, now I'm just going to say A equals A. So essentially I said, look at the statement where it's true if A equals A. I'm going to copy and paste that now into the password. Wow, look at that. I was able to log it as Mickey again. And just to stress the point a little bit more, there's lots of other things. It's not always just simply saying 1 equals 1 or A equals A. In some systems, there's a few more parameters you need to type in. So for example, I might want to say that pass or password, let's say password, or 1 equals 1. Essentially, I'm doing the exact same thing with these commands that I did in the previous ones. And again, I'm able to log it as Mickey. But let's say we don't want Mickey, and maybe we're looking for another user. We don't really know what the users are in the system, so we can do a couple different things to get Mickey out of the equation. So let's go ahead and log in again. And I'm just going to use our old SQL injection, or 1 equals 1. But now I'm actually going to use an apostrophe to close that off. I'm going to put an AND statement. I'm going to say that the first name isn't equal to Mickey. So pretty much we have the exact same SQL statement. We're saying 1 equals 1. This has to be true. I've just added an AND statement and said, in addition to 1 equaling 1 being a true statement, I want to make sure that this first name isn't Mickey. Pretty straightforward. Again, let's copy and paste and see what happens. Wow, now I've logged in again successfully, and I've logged in as Donald. Okay, that's pretty cool. And again, just to take this a little bit further, maybe I really don't want Mickey or Donald. Or maybe I just want to keep on enumerating this and see how far it goes. So I'm just going to paste that same statement in, 1 equals 1 true, and first name isn't equal to Mickey, but now I'm also going to say, let me close off Mickey here. And first name isn't equal to Donald. And now we log on as Buds, and that lets you know how I knew who one of the users was previously. And of course, you can do this as long as you desire, as long as you continue to find more and more users. For more information on Imperva and how to mitigate these
So I think that's all for my report. So thank you and God bless.